Good evening, my dear friends on Facebook and YouTube. How are you this evening? It's 7 p.m. on Monday, the 20th of January. I did hear somebody say that they thought it was the 174th of January because it feels like such a long month. It doesn't to me. It seems to have gone by like that. I can't believe that it's the 20th. But anyway, how are you doing? How is your evening, day, morning, wherever you are, going? Cheers. I'm going to do what I always suggest to do, which is go onto my phone. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. Go onto my phone and I am going to share this, which is what I encourage many of you to do. If you haven't ever watched this before, either live or on the replay, then there is a purpose for me doing these Facebook Lives every Monday night. There we go. Come and join. And you will know, if you have watched these, that you know that I can't talk and type at the same time. Come and join. So, so for me, these are all about me giving back, because when I first started in the wonderful world of personal development, probably about 20 odd years ago now, I would imagine, I started my business 15 years ago this year. I didn't have any money, and I attended a huge amount of free gigs, whether it be teleseminars, in-person events, whatever it may be, to be able to get myself going, get myself out of the very dark place that I was in. And my way of saying thank you to all of those people that were giving free stuff away at that point was to do this, so that rather than paying for venues and travel and all of those kinds of things, you can be sat in your own lovely home, or I know some of you are in the shower. I've been told people listen to this whilst they're in the shower. That it gives you the opportunity, wherever you are, to be able to access this and hopefully get some, my intent, this used to be called, the page used to be called The Confidence Garden, and the whole intent behind that was about planting seeds, and seeds that are in your mind, so that you can start contemplating what's going on and be able to make a difference for yourself. That's my intent, hence why I encourage you to share. But just like anything else on Facebook, please do let me know, first of all, those of you who are on live, give me some emojis of some description so that I know that you can hear me okay, and that everything is coming across clearly. It looks a bit grainy on the old screen from my perspective today. Don't know why. I'm not sure if the internet connection is a bit funny, since it's been quite windy here. So yeah, just give me a thumbs up wherever you are, whoever you are, just so that I know that this is working. And I just need to bring up something else on my screen so that I've got that there. And I also need to turn my emails off because I don't want them pinging. I've had that before. So, right, let me get back on the right screen. Can't find the right screen. There we go. So yeah, please do just give me a quick emoji. It doesn't matter what the emoji is, or just drop down and say hi so that I know that this is all working fine before I plow into this evening's topic, which is, I have, good evening, Joe. Thank you for that, my lovely. I'm always a bit cautious. I don't know about you, but I'm always a bit cautious when words start to become, or phrases start to become very sort of throwaway and common practice, and mainly because I kind of, it's like today. Today, for example, is meant to be Blue Monday, right? Why? Because some PR firm used some research that a scientist guy did years ago, spun it a little bit and used it as their marketing to get people to buy holidays in January, because sales were slower in January. That's why it's named Blue Monday. The only blue part of Monday today from my perspective, were the gorgeous blue skies that we were experiencing here in York. And I hope you, wherever you are as well. So it's things like that. When phrases like that come into common parlance, I'm always a little bit, good evening, by the way, to those of you that are just joining. Do drop down and say hi. I'm always a little bit, what's going on there? Why is that happening? Why is that phrase suddenly becoming a little bit overused, I suppose? And I think sometimes these phrases are helpful, but they get spun, they get picked up on from a marketing and advertising perspective, and sometimes get spun on to convince us, usually, to buy stuff that's going to make us feel better. And one of those phrases that I don't remember this being used 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, but it's certainly something that I hear a lot of now, which is self-care. I've just got to, it's time, I've got to do some self-care. Now, I look like I'm taking the mickey out of it. I don't mean to be taking the mickey out of it, because I think self-care is important. And as I'm talking about this, by the way, I haven't actually said my usual waffle because I was saying something else at the beginning. Good evening, those of you who are just joining, by the way, and to those of you on the replay. Feel free to chip in at any points, whatever your thoughts are around self-care. I'd love to know what your thoughts are, so that we can have a conversation. The whole point is that this is a conversation, so let's see where it goes. So from my perspective, I think the great thing about that term is people are recognizing that they need to put the effort in for themselves. And I think that's great. I think that's important, and it's relevant, and it's useful. And yeah, it's what we need. Is we need people to be taking care of themselves. We need people to be recognizing and taking responsibility for what they can do. I think the reason I'm a bit twitchy about it is because it's being quite superficially used, and not necessarily in a helpful way. Now, there was a beep there which sounded like a Facebook beep. Let me just double check. Okay, no, it was a different Facebook beep. That's fine. Just wanted to check that one of you wasn't private messaging me with a question or something. So I think that a lot of it is being picked up on. That phrase of self-care is being picked up and utilized by a great deal of spa companies, by a great deal of sort of beauty therapists and massage therapists, but by a great deal of gyms and exercise people. And that's great, because all those things are needed. We do need to take that time out for ourselves. We do need to have some downtime or some chill time for ourselves, where we are physically taking care of ourselves. That is very important, don't get me wrong. But I think that quite often this phrase of self-care is being used in a that it's all about the externals. It's all about doing something, whether it's going for a run, or whether that is watching TV, or going to the movies, or going for a massage, or going swimming, or whatever it is. It's very doing based, which again is helpful and is useful at times. But I think sometimes we need to be very mindful as to whether we're doing that from a distraction perspective rather than from a genuine self-care perspective. So what we're not aware of a lot of the time is that I had an idea about something earlier. Feel free to chip in and let me know if you think this is an idea, or if you fancy having a go. But I noticed that I was going to, I went for a walk outside. I'd brought my lunch with me today, so I didn't need to go and buy anything, but I went for a walk to stretch my legs. So otherwise I end up sitting in the office all day, which is not great for the physical body. So I went for a walk around the office and around the city, and I noticed that I got into, I wonder if so-and-so's got such and such, because I could do with buying that. And I could hear this dialogue going round and round in my head. And I thought, hang on a second, do I actually need that thing that they're talking about? I'm not so sure I actually do. So what I then realized is that I'd been advertised to, and therefore it had gone in my subconscious, and that was then going, I need this thing. And I'm curious as to just how many people that happen to are aware that that's happening to, because I think it's happening far more frequently than most people recognize or realize. So when it comes to something like self-care, I'm concerned that we're being manipulated into doing things that involve us spending more money or committing in a way that is distracting us away from what we really need to focus on, which is ourselves. You know, are we taking genuine self-care in the sense of recognizing what's really going on inside? Because those distractions are only going to keep us from what's going on. Do say hi or give me some emojis, those of you who are just joining live now. So good evening, Caroline. So it is important. I'm not dismissing about doing those physical things. That's important, and that's required. Absolutely get that. Perfect. But what I think is very helpful is for us also to take it to another level. And I'm wondering, rather than it being about self-care, I wonder what would happen if we started talking about self-kindness instead. And for those of you who have listened to the 7 Keys of Confidence, which I shall put the link for on down here. So if you go to that webpage, I'll pin it to the top so you can find it easily, is that you can get for free the 7 Keys of Confidence. And within there, one of the locks, because every key needs a lock, one of the locks that's in there is about being unkind, and how when you are unkind to yourself, the impact that can have on you. And what we need to be aware of and be mindful of is actually that links into our confidence, and that when we're being unkind to ourselves, the impact that can have is then causing us to need self-care, to then be going and doing the other things. So rather than, but by doing these other things, sometimes that's not giving us it's not facing into the unkindness. Is this making sense? Let me know if this is making sense. And if it's not, then do put in the comments below. But this for me is about us taking that step back and recognizing that self-care isn't just about the lovely candlelit bath or the wonderful massage or the cozy night in front of the TV. It's not just about those things. Self-care is real genuine self-care is a lot deeper than that. And to me, the best way in that I have come up with so far, I'm more than happy to discover something else. And if anybody else has uncovered anything, then please do let me know. But is self-kindness. Now, for some of you listening to this, some of you listening to this may find that extremely easy and be like, yeah, I can do self-kindness. That's easy. And there'll be some of you that have no idea what I'm talking about. But my guess is the majority of us are going to be somewhere in between there. And I did a talk a number of years ago now at a very large supermarket headquarters, the green one, if you know which one I mean. And at the end of the talk, people were coming up, getting the book signed, and asking various questions. And I'd been talking about self-kindness and the importance of self-kindness. And this guy came up to me. I would guess he was in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. And he said to me, well, he asked for my help, and he's, Jules, I wonder if you can help me. You said about one of the keys to confidence is around self-kindness, but I have a problem in the fact that I don't know what self-kindness is. I don't know how to be kind to myself. And it really struck me that the challenge that so many people may have in relation to being kind to themselves. But we are, I mean, I know how many, especially women, although I don't think it's exclusive to women, I know how many women struggle with booking that massage. I know how many women struggle with taking some time out for themselves. And again, this isn't exclusively for women, but it's in my experience, it's more likely to be the women. And that's because a lot of the time is that they're putting their efforts and their focus on their young ones. And even if their young ones are 37 years old, they're still doing that in that direction. So getting them to spin that round and put that on themselves is a challenge. I get that. But what I am interested in is that the depth of challenge that people have with being kind to themselves, and that can be an even bigger issue than actually going and getting the massage, having the long soak in the bath, whatever it may be. So my question for you is, and this may be something that you want to write down and ask yourself every so often, what would be a kind thought that you could have about yourself right now? What would be a kind thought that you could have about yourself right now? Now, that is the question that I posed. And that's when this young man came up to me and said, don't know how to do that. And there may be some of you that are listening to this that I just don't know how to do that. So my invitation would be for you to think about think about the unkind thought that you might have about yourself, and ask yourself, what's the opposite? What is the opposite of that? Because what I find fascinating is that people think that they can be kind to other people, but don't know how to be kind to themselves. But if you don't know how to be kind to yourself, then you will struggle to be genuinely kind to other people, because you won't know what genuine kindness is. You may have an element of caring, for example, but even that, you need to learn it for yourself. You need to have an understanding of it for yourself. And if you're not doing these things, then the impact that that's going to have on you is you're going to be buying into that, what is often referred to as the inner critic, but that self-abusing voice, which I think is far more truthful than an inner critic, but that internal abusing voice that is being unkind. And when you're buying into that voice and giving that voice attention, then whilst that voice has attention, it has the power. And that's what's going to make it a challenge then to get through the day and take on new challenges, or get through a day that has a lot of curveballs, or get through the day that's really stressful and has a lot of demands. Because ultimately, that voice that's telling you unkind things and you're engaging with that unkind thinking, that's not going to be helpful. And then that's going to be draining on your energy. That's where we can end up reaching out for crappy foods, alcohol, coffee, cigarettes, you name it, doing all sorts of other unhelpful behaviors. Good evening to those of you just joined, by the way. That do drop down and say hi if you'd like to join Caroline and Joe in saying good evening. But when we are stressing in that way, when we are when that has our attention, when we're focusing solely on that unkind voice, then we're really not going to be able to, or we're going to find it hard. It's not that we're not going to be able to, we're going to find it hard to be kind to ourselves, to genuinely be self-caring. We might for a moment take care of this physical body by going for that run, soaking the bath, whatever it is. But are we taking care up here? I'm sure that you'll have heard or seen somebody talking about, we are taught as children the importance of physical hygiene, brushing our teeth, washing our hands, washing our hair, washing our bodies, all of this kind of stuff. But very few of us are taught mental hygiene, and we're not taught to put that into our daily practice. So when it comes to this self-care repetition, or that it being used so often, my invitation, good evening, Shelley, and my invitation would be for you to think about the kindness aspect of it, and get curious as to what could happen if and when you are kind to yourself. what happens when you engage with kind thinking about yourself? That's not, again, that's not the sole answer, but it's a step in the direction. Drunk my drink too quickly, I do apologize. It's a step in the right direction that's going to help you engage with even more self-kindness, even more, well, ultimately, it's going to help you relax in your thinking, which will then help you relax in your body. And it will also then help you access even more of your confidence. So those physical things are really helpful. Great, do them. And big capital letters, and that was me air scribbling at you. And make it a practice to be doing that internal self-kindness as well. So to me, I see them as two separate things. That self-care, it's a bit like getting the MOT done on the car and doing all of those physical things that need to be done. But that self-kindness is really going underneath the bonnet and getting deep in there to be able to help yourself. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. And whilst I just check my notes and see if there's anything else I wanted to add. I think I've covered everything I wanted to add, actually, or wanted to say. And it's the reason that this came up for me is that as I think you may or may not know, over the last year or so, I've been working with a lot more young people. So sort of 13 up to 23 is my kind of bracket when I talk about young people. Anyone over 23-year-old. If you're over 40, well, so what I notice is I've noticed them using that language. And I ask anybody, but when I've asked the young people in particular, when they've said, I just need to have more self-care. What does that mean? What does that actually mean? Most of them, their focus is only on about, taking some time out and watching some Netflix and, having a nice soak in the bath, lighting some candles. It's only focused on that direction. It's not actually focusing on having some self-care in here, some self-kindness, and listening to what's going on, because then you can deal with it. When we're just doing the physical stuff outside, it's not going to be dealing with those internal thinking, and it means that we're going to get caught on that repetition of booking a spa weekend over a spa weekend over a spa weekend, which is great for somebody else's pocket, not so great for my pocket. It may be great for this physical body, but it's not necessarily going to help the mind. So if you really want to indulge in real self-care, is I keep repeating myself, do the physical stuff and capital letters and do the internal self-kindness. Otherwise, you're just going to be spinning your wheels doing the same things over and over again and wondering why they don't work. So you're very quiet this evening as a group, and that's absolutely fine. But as there are no comments or questions coming in, and I have nothing else to add, that's going to be all I really want to say. I'm just going to reiterate the question, which is, what would be a kind thought I could have about myself right now? And even though, and for those of you rather that have a challenge with thinking kindly about yourself, which is far more people than, it breaks my heart when I think about it. Got distracted by my own reflection in the kitchen window. What would be a kind thought I could have about myself right now? And if you are unable to answer that question, think of what the unkind thought is and just get curious as to what would be the opposite. And imagine the opposite is like a new pair of shoes or a new coat that you're putting on for the first time, to be able to see what that's like and how it fits. And don't be looking for any quick fixes, because there aren't any, but you can at least take some steps in the direction of marrying those two things up together. So I hope that you have found this evening useful. If you have, do let me know. Even if you're watching on the replay, it will be great to get your thoughts and feedback. What I would really love to know from you is, as I'm planning out the next few sessions, and I think we've got one more maybe before the end of the month. I haven't got my diary to hand before the open questions, but what topics do you want covered? What are the specifics? Now, you can whiz me a direct message. That was weird. Just as I said that, my phone vibrated. I don't know if you heard that over the speaker. But if you can send me a direct message on here, or you can email me, jules@juleswyman.com. I shall put that down here as well. Check I haven't misspelled it, because I'm very good at typos. And I'd love to know what topics you want covered, and whether they're directly relating to you, whether they're directly relating to your children or colleagues or anything like that. It's absolutely fine. And I don't have to name you to be able to answer the question. That's not a problem. Shelley has put, I've only really learned about self-care over the last few years. It's only been towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, that I've really started to notice a big difference in how much more relaxed and confident I feel. Woohoo! That's fantastic, Shelley. I really do appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. And if you have any other questions or comments, then please do let me know. When you go onto my website, by the way, and sign up for the 7 Keys of Confidence, then you would like, that's hilarious, Caroline, that you would like a topic on OCD. The only reason it's hilarious is because I've literally just written a blog today about control, not so much about OCD, but about control. I'm not an expert on OCD. I can only give you my experience and my thoughts on control. Maybe I will do a Facebook Live about that, but look out. If you are, kind of links in with what I was about to say, if you are on the newsletter, then you will get the blog, which will go out this week. And there is also a link for my new event, which is happening in March, a live event, which I will be posting the details of on here at some point this week, because there is an early bird price, which finishes at the beginning of next month. So it's only on for about 3 weeks, the early bird price, that is. The event's on the 7th of March, so you can at least pencil the date in. But thank you for that, Caroline. I will definitely put my thinking hat on as to what to do around OCD and come back to you. So thank you very much for that. And thank you to the rest of you for joining this evening. And I look forward to catching up with you next week. And as I've said before, but it's more pertinent tonight than ever, in a world where you can be anything, please be kind. Take care. Bye now.